Christmas banquet. We had lots of good food there, didn't we? That was wonderful. Yeah, really good. Then, of course, we had a staff luncheon. That was really good. We had good food there too. Lovely. Carol singing at Vera, that was wonderful. And Carol and I actually, that's my Carol, actually had a visit from our very own carol singers from our church, which we really appreciated, came to our house and sang carols. Lovely. Now, we did not make it to Epcot for the candlelight procession, or we didn't make it. We're going to try to make it after Christmas, but done a little baking, made some mince pies, yum. Ooh. And I'm preparing, getting ready for big day cooking. I cook the Christmas meal. I do think we have to be a little careful, though. I have to raise my hand, tend to overeat during this time of year. Mind you, I tend to overeat any time of year, but might be a good idea that when we ask God to bless our food, that we ask Him to give us a gift of moderation. Pray about what we eat. Now, I do know that some people pray too, Lord, take the calories out of that. I don't think that works. I heard about the calorie-conscious woman who drove past a bakery, saw some very yummy-looking goodies that she thought, I'd like to have those, but she decided to pray about it. Lord, if you want me to have those delicious cookies, let me have a parking place right in front of the bakery. Sure enough, after 10 times around the block, there it was. Well, good food's certainly a part of the Christmas season, but it's not really an essential, is it? Well, it's essential to eat, of course. Probably not that much, though. We've been looking at Hebrews 10, verse 7. Then I said, behold, I have come. In the volume of the book it is written of me to do your will, O God. And in this series on the essentials of Christmas, in our first sermon, we considered, behold, I have come, proofs of his coming. And then in the second one, we looked at, it is written of me, prophecies of his coming. Last time, we looked at, to do your will, O God, the purpose of his coming. And today we conclude this series with part 2 of the purpose of his coming. So the text says, behold, I have come. Did you know that Jesus used the words, I have come, or similar words, no less than 11 times? Now, I'm going to cover all of them. When we think of the coming of Jesus, we do not have to be in the dark as to why he came. He made it very clear. Last time, looking at, I have come to do your will. Let's look at 3 more places where Jesus said, I have come. It's John chapter 10, verse 10, John chapter 12, verse 46, and John chapter 18, verse 33. And all of them are not only essentials of Christmas, but they're essentials of human existence. They are life, light, and truth. And they're all found in the Gospel of John, as I said there. And each one, though, have a satanic counterfeit. There's a counterfeit life, a counterfeit light, and a counterfeit truth. And it all seems to be especially evident at Christmas time. So first, the first I have come is John chapter 10, verse 10. The thief does not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy. I have come that they may have life and that they may have it more abundantly. So he has come that we may have life. A life that God desires for all men and women. And yet, how people have been fooled into thinking that they can have life without God. And the life that God desires for people has been so cleverly and wickedly counterfeited by Satan that so many people are unaware that there is another life. They're unaware that it even exists. Especially at Christmas time, and people, what do they think about, what do they consider real living is? There's going to be lots of partying, isn't there? Revelry in the name of celebrating Christmas. In the next few days, there'll be lots of money spent, probably already have, tons of food eaten, gallons of alcohol consumed, and then there'll be the hangovers, the credit card bills, and sadly the car accidents caused by drunken drivers out enjoying life. And that's how many people spend Christmas. I used to be just like that. It was sort of just a great time of year to party. That's what we thought life was. You work all week so you can live it up. At the weekend, that's what I thought life was. But there was a dimension to life absolutely unbeknown to me. I had no idea that it existed. A life absolutely incomprehensible to anyone who's not a born-again Christian. A discovery of infinite magnitude awaits anyone who will truly give their heart to Christ. Unless we've discovered life in Christ, we live purely in the natural realm, the physical realm. We have no experience of true spiritual life. In fact, we're dead to it. We have no idea. Scripture says, taste and see the Lord is good. How can you know the Lord's good unless you have tasted it? It's sort of like if you've never tasted English Galaxy chocolate. A dear brother brought me a Galaxy bar from England. Thank you very much. Actually brought two, one for me and one for Carol. I ate them both. She said I could. Maybe you're content with Hershey's. You think that's all there is. Or maybe all you have is Lipton's tea. You go to breakfast at Denny's and they serve you Lipton's. They give you a cup of almost hot water, a tea bag to dip in it. Well, I'm supposed to drink that? Where's the teapot? You got to boil the water. You got to pour a little in the teapot, a little there to warm its bottom and rinse it out. And then you got to put in the tea bags, either Yorkshire Gold or Typhoon, that might do, but you're really styling if you have some tea bags from Betty's Tea Room at York or Harrogate. Ooh, you got to let it sit there for a few minutes with the tea cozy on the teapot, keeping it hot. Then you put the milk in the cup first. Well, that way you don't have to stir it. Actually, though, I read recently that it's proper etiquette to put the milk in after you pour the tea. Evidently, that's the way the Queen used to do it before she went to heaven. And I suppose, I don't know, well, whatever you do, it's good. You're living now. And some folks are happy with Lipton's and Hershey's. They don't know there's a whole other dimension of life. I mean, why would I have a burger from McDonald's when I can get one from Five Guys? We jest, but so many people are sadly unaware that life without Jesus is not a real life. He came to give us abundant life. The word in the original language of the New Testament is perissos. It's in the sense of being beyond or superabundant in quantity or superior in quality. exceedingly abundant above all. A life that is also eternal. I mean, if you're one of those rare individuals to reach 100, I was shopping yesterday, and as I was coming out, shopping for my Christmas stuff, food and stuff, again, food. And I was coming out, saw a magazine that Dick Van Dyke is 98. Chimney sweep, wasn't he, in Mary Poppins? Yeah. But, if you were to live to 100, it still will not be enough. Because that's only a breath. Really, just a breath compared to eternity. And it's like, is this it? Did God create us for such a short time? It would seem to be a waste. Solomon makes an interesting comment in Ecclesiastes 12:6. He says, remember your Creator before the silver cord is loose, or the golden bowl is broken, or the pitcher shattered at the fountain, or the wheel broken at the well. Then the dust will return to the earth as it was, and the spirit will return to God who gave it. When he speaks about this broken pitcher shattered at the fountain, I think he's speaking there of unfulfilled purpose and potential. Job said, a man dies and he's laid away. Indeed, he breathes his last, and where is he? And he gives up his ghost. Where is he? And he hasn't accomplished all that he desired. Wait a minute, I got more to do. Well, the life that Jesus gives is eternal. Eternal life. But all is eternal, but eternal life is not just a life that begins after this life, but it's a quality of life also, the kind of life that he speaks of. Not just a life lasting forever. Look at John chapter 4, verse 13. John 4:13. Jesus answered and said to her, whoever drinks of this water will thirst again, but whoever drinks of the water that I shall give him will never thirst, but the water that I shall give him will become in him a fountain of water springing up into everlasting life. People lust after life, but they look in all the wrong places, and the devil will see to that. Satan's counterfeit, though, will not bring lasting satisfaction. Only Jesus can satisfy. Only Jesus can give eternal life, the life that people were intended to live. A life in fellowship with God. A life free from guilt. A life without fear. A life without need for drugs and drink and illicit, harmful activity. I hope you have that life. If you don't, you can. You can be born again even today. So this is a purpose of his coming, that you might have life and life eternal. Well, another place that Jesus explained the purpose of his coming was John chapter 12, verse 46. Let's look at that. He has come as light. Verse 46 of John 12. I have come as light into the world, that whoever believes in me should not abide in darkness. Now, there's a lot of light at Christmas, but for most folks, it's light outside their house. I don't know, maybe you put lights on your house at Christmas. Very nice. We don't. I got nothing against it. I don't object to it. It's not like a spiritual thing or a theological thing, like I don't put lights up or something. It's probably because of time, or being honest, I'm just too lazy to do such a thing. Go climbing all over and hanging lights. I'd probably break a leg or break my neck or something anyway. But did you know you can actually hire a professional Christmas light house decorator to put your Christmas lights up? Going to cost you between $2,000 and $10,000 though. I'm not sure where the idea of decorating your house with lights came from. Maybe it was just a progression from decorating your tree with lights outside. You got a few left over. Oh, got a few lights left. Let's hang them outside. Then pretty soon, the whole neighborhood looks like Disney World. Some are a little bit over the top. Did you know there are neighborhood Christmas light competitions all over the U.S.? Don't be embarrassed if you've entered one. Have a photo of it. Do we have a photo? Look at that lot. That wasn't even a winner. It's called the Great Christmas Light Fight. Last year's national winners, they won $50,000. They probably spent that much on the electric bill. But you can get professional tips on how to win. There's articles, YouTube, and all kind of stuff. I don't think it has much to do with the first Christmas, except, of course, there was a star over the steeple. Don't know if that counts. It's only a vague relationship that between all the lights we see. Maybe, people are saying that Jesus is the light of the world, but that's a bit of a stretch, isn't it? But the concept of Christmas light goes back even to the prophet Isaiah. Chapter 9, verse 2, he wrote, "The people who have walked in darkness have seen a great light. To those who dwelt in the land of the shadow of death, upon them a light has shined." We know that he's speaking of Jesus because Matthew quotes Isaiah in Matthew 4:16, "The people who sat in darkness seen a great light. Upon those who sat in the region of the shadow of death, light has dawned." Matthew quoting Isaiah. He said he's come as a light into the world. Surely, as Isaiah wrote, surely people do dwell in the land of the shadow of death. I mean, darkness is synonymous with evil and wickedness. The proverb says, "The way of the wicked is like darkness. They do not know what makes them stumble." They do not know because Satan has blinded their eyes, the scripture says. But the tragedy is, not only do they not see the darkness, they see it as the opposite. And this is what always kind of freaks me out. I mean, has there ever been a time in our lifetime when the following verse has been truer, Isaiah 5:20. Listen to this. "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. That which is obviously wicked, evil, immoral, unnatural to anyone with any semblance of common sense is seen as good and wholesome, and at the very least accepted as normal. That which the Bible calls sin and abomination is praised and rewarded. Not only do they not comprehend the light, but they see light as darkness and darkness as light. They're so blind, they're unaware that they're actually in the kingdom of death and darkness. The two kingdoms. The world is bound since the fall in this kingdom of death and darkness. I was once in that kingdom. I was once in one kingdom. Now I'm in the other. I was once darkness itself, the Bible tells me. As Ephesians confirms that we all are, it says you were once darkness. Once darkness. It doesn't say that I was in the darkness. It says I was darkness. That implies that we were a part of that makes up the darkness of the world. We cannot excuse ourselves for living in darkness by saying, well, I just didn't know. As some would suggest, there's nothing really wrong with society. We just need to educate them out of the darkness. This education is going to save them. Some of the most educated people in the world seem to be, when it comes to spiritual matters, in the dark. Darkness exists because individuals who are darkness make up the darkness. But Jesus is the light, and he wants to bring us into the light. As the song, a wonderful song, Light of the World, you step down into darkness, open my eyes and let me see. Then that marvelous Christmas carol, my favorite, Charles Wesley's Hark the Herald Angels Sing, he says, life and light to all he brings, risen with healing in his wings. Light. Life and light. No need to remain in darkness. I have come as a light into the world, that whoever believes in me should not abide in darkness. There's a wonderful, glorious aspect of the Christmas message. He will bring us into the light. And this is the purpose of his coming and the work of the gospel. The devil blinded their eyes. Our gospel is veiled to those who are perishing, whose minds the God of this age is blinded, who do not believe, lest the light of the gospel of the glory of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine upon them. It takes a miracle for blind eyes to be opened. I have come as a light into the world, that whoever believes in me should not abide in darkness. It is the glorious gospel that brings sight to the spiritually blind. And it is there for all to experience. Sadly, you can be spiritually blind and not even know that there is sight for the blind. A woman named Rose Crawford, she'd been blind for 50 years. I just can't believe it, she gasped as the doctor lifted the bandages from her eyes after recovering from the delicate surgery in Ontario. She lived in Ontario, there in hospital. She wept for joy when the first time in her life she saw a dazzling and beautiful world formed and color greeted her eyes. She was now able to see. The amazing thing about the story is that for 20 years of her blindness had been unnecessary. She didn't know that surgical technique had been developed and that an operation could have restored her vision at the age of 30, 20 years before it did. The doctor said she just figured there was nothing that could be done about her condition. Much of her life would have been very different. That's sad. So many who are spiritually blind need not be, for there is a cure. Many of us who have had our eyes opened, we lived years in blindness. And there was no need. But all the thrill when blind eyes are opened for the first time, when we discover a world we had no idea existed. I have come as a light into the world, that whoever believes in me should not abide in darkness. No one need be in spiritual darkness this Christmas. So this is also a purpose of his coming. That is what he came to do, to give life and spiritual light. So life and light. Now, one more, I have come. Truth. John 18, verse 37. Pilate therefore said to him, are you a king then? Jesus answered, said, you say rightly that I am a king. For this cause I was born, and for this cause I have come into the world, that I should bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice. Well, what is the truth about Christmas? What is the purpose of it all? We've been looking at that for the last few weeks. And when I was a young man, I'm afraid I didn't have much of a clue about what it was all about. Oh, I knew we were supposed to be celebrating the birth of God's Son, but I got it all mixed up with a lot of other stuff. I always liked Christmas a lot. I loved Christmas. I've always loved Christmas. I liked it a lot. There was a good reason to. There was the food. Always more food and stuff. And we had stuff that we didn't have all the time, Not just a regular turkey. Actually, we rarely had turkey. We rarely could afford turkey. We had chicken, mostly. But then there was all the other stuff that my mum made. Sausage rolls, plum pudding, Christmas pudding. And my mum made the best mince pies, jam tarts, coconut Bobby's hats. Ever had one? I bet Howard's had those. They were lovely. My mum was a great cook, great baker. And her trifle, ooh, boy. Are you getting hungry? Then there was parties, and then there was mistletoe. I don't know who thought that one up, but I thought it was a good idea. Church, sure. We went to church, Church of England. Midnight mass. Went home then and drank vodka. Didn't really know what it was about. And I noticed the same ignorance in people today. You remember a short while back, there was this controversy over the use of Merry Christmas. Some of the Target stores avoided using the word Christmas in their advertising. They were told not to use, they didn't use the word Christmas in their advertising at Christmas. Then there was a backlash and they started using it again. You remember when Trump became president, he said that we're going to say Merry Christmas again. I like that. And some still seem to have that political correctness hangover and prefer happy holidays over Merry Christmas because they don't want to offend anybody. As if saying Merry Christmas offends. I guess it does. Well, I guess I offend a lot of people because I don't say happy holidays, I say Merry Christmas. The holidays, well, it's Christmas. I never heard that when I was a kid. I never heard. It was always Merry Christmas, not Happy Holidays. I mean, we used to ask, what are you doing this Christmas? Usually we say, what are you getting, or what did you get for Christmas? Not what are you getting for the holidays, or let's decorate the holiday tree, or let's sing I'm Dreaming of a White Holiday. Heard about at school, to avoid offending anyone, they dropped all songs of any kind of spiritual, biblical nature or whatever, dropped them all together, started singing about the weather, singing increasingly non-memorable songs such as Winter Wonderland, Frosty the Snowman, and this is a real song, Susie the Snowflake. Susie Snowflake. It's all pretty funny, isn't it, really, because it was in Miami. The sad thing is, though, it keeps people from the truth. From the truth. For this cause I've come into the world, that I should bear witness to the truth. He's to bear witness to the truth of the kingdom of heaven. That there is another life, there is a higher kingdom. The kingdom of men come and go. They rise and fall. But he goes on. His is an everlasting kingdom. Unto us a child is born. Unto us a son is given. The government will be upon his shoulder, and his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. And of the increase of his government and peace, there will be no end. Upon the throne of David and over his kingdom, to order it and establish it with judgment and justice from that time forward, even forever. And he said, everyone who is of the truth hears my voice. Only those who've entered into that pledge of loyalty to the king hears his voice. And we are the people who are out of step with this world. Aliens passing through. His sheep hear his voice and follow him. Many people believe there are no absolutes. That truth cannot really be discovered, that there's no truth, there's no absolutes. They say, well, there are no absolutes. And I ask them, are you absolutely sure about that? A new phrase I'd never heard until this decade, that's your truth. Your truth. Or they say, well, that's my truth. He said it's all relative. What is true for you might not be true for me. If you believe it, then so it is so for you. And then again, you could always be deceiving yourself. But if it makes you happy, that's okay. That's your truth. Jesus said, I am the truth. That he himself is the witness about the truth of God. In accordance to all that Satan has sought to do to discredit God, man has developed that perverted concepts of God. Gods who were selfish and self-centered, lustful and perverted, untouchable, unreachable, uncaring and uncompassionate. Jesus came to bear witness of the truth about God. That man has it all wrong. He needs to take another look at Jesus Christ. See that God is loving and compassionate, gentle and kind, gracious and forgiving. He himself said, for God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. And John writes at the beginning of his gospel, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory. The glory is the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. Full of grace and truth. Jesus is the truth, and he shows us everything as it really was and as it really is. Truth in all its fullness and scope, embodied in him. He was the perfect expression of the truth. And of course, it's virtually, it's equivalent to his statement in John 14:6. Jesus said to him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. He is the truth about God. He is the truth of God. That is what Jesus Christ is, as he has enabled us to understand the Father, to see him in his work, the broken lives that he's touched, to make them whole, delivering people from the powers of darkness. And so in Christ we see the work of God, filled with compassion. He is the ultimate love. Jesus reveals the Father to us. In Jesus we see the heart of God. Vernon McGee says it was from the bosom of the Father that he came. He came to reveal the heart of God. He was the only begotten Son, which is in the bosom of the Father. From the very dearest part of God, he came to reveal the heart of God. And in Jesus we see the desire of God to lift people out of darkness, the darkness of this world, and bring them into fellowship with himself. That God desires, we see in Jesus that God desires all people to be saved and none to be lost. That he is not willing that any perish, but all come to repentance. And the person, if he's not sure of that, then see, the Son of God has revealed it to be so. He says, come unto me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. And he turned none away. And he who came with a genuine heart. So he came to give his life and light, love, and full of grace and truth. These are the things that Jesus reveals, because these are the things that the Father wants you to know of him. He wants you to know him. He wants you to have light and understanding, not to grope around in the darkness wondering what God's like or what does God think of me. Jesus revealed him thus, and no one needs to be in the dark. He wants you to know him. He wants you to have life, not to go through this earthly existence without purpose. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And he wants you to know the ultimate truth, and that is to know him. And to know him is to know his love. Not to go through life without love, looking in all the wrong places for someone to love you. Jesus surely shows us that God is love. Yes, by the way he lived and the way he loved, but mostly by the way he died and loved. He wants you to know him, his saving grace, grace and truth. The truth is that none of us deserve his love, do we? We justly deserve to go on without light, groping in the darkness, never finding what we're looking for. We justly deserve to live without life, to be left to wander aimlessly through our existence. And who on earth deserves such love? And the truth is, none of us do. He came full of grace and truth. And the truth is, though we do not deserve such things, not only has he revealed these things to us, he has granted them to us. He has granted them to us that not only will we just see them, but that we would have them. That we might not just see God, but we might know him. It might bring God to us and bring us to God. Emmanuel. That is grace, amazing grace, how sweet the sound saved a wretch like me. This is God. Do not listen to the other voices that tell you contrary. Jesus has declared him this Christmas season. Once again. I'd like to close this morning by reading to you a note that someone once sent me. I don't know about you, but this year I'd like to discover the true meaning of Christmas. I want to go beyond the candy and the goodies that we all eat and then complain about the weight gain. I want to get past the disgruntled shoppers begrudgingly buying gifts for unappreciative recipients. Get past the beautiful lights that everyone complains about, the hassle of putting them up and taking them down. Yes, this year, I want to figure it out. There's got to be more to it than this. I mean, I appreciate new socks as much as the next guy. But this year, I even want to go beyond the thoughtful, creative, handmade gifts that a loved one stayed up late 3 nights in a row to make. Even beyond the Christmas connection and the toys for tots. I don't even want to settle for saying Jesus is the reason for the season. What does that really mean anyway? I don't want to simply sing Silent Night and Away in a Manger along with countless others who never give the true meaning of Christmas a second thought. May this not be another year of merely telling or hearing the story of Jesus' birth. Take another sip of eggnog and then turn on the TV to watch the parade. No, this year, I want to grasp it, all of it. I want to be awestruck at the wonder of an infant creator. I want to look through Mary's eyes into the eyes of a tiny, helpless, cooing baby who at that very moment was sustaining the whole universe by his sheer will. I purpose in my heart that this year I'll reach out and grasp an understanding of the incomprehensible love that constrained and compelled God to leave his glorious throne and assail our physical existence. I want to do more than be thoughtful, do good deeds, feel good, sing songs, eat myself sick. I want to touch his hem, his side, his glorious face. I want him to touch me with his wounded hand. That's what I want. I want to be transformed by the true meaning of Christmas. Transformed by the true meaning of Christmas. That's the cry of our heart. I trust that's your cry too. Let's pray together. Father, thank you so much again for the wonderful truths, Lord, that we find in your word. Even if the last few weeks we've looked at the purpose of his coming, the essentials of Christmas. Thank you, Lord, that we don't have to be in the dark over these things. That here it is, in your word, clearly laid out. And Lord, even among all the festivities and celebrations, and Lord, we thank you that we can spend time with our families and friends and eat good food and exchange gifts and care for one another, and maybe write letters to people we don't usually write to. Thank you, Lord, for all of these things. But most of all, thank you for revealing to us life and light and truth and the love of God. Thank you for these things, Lord. May you bless each of your people this Christmas time. In Jesus' name, amen.